I didn't see you there. Welcome back to the next part of Call of Duty Zombies, explained by me, Drunk Tony. Yeah, and so we're back. Last episode we covered World War to Black Ops. Fucking wild, right? Fucking crazy story. On this episode, we're gonna cover Black Ops 2 to some point in Black Ops 3, because you know it's this part. It's when it gets really in depth, and that's when they really start focusing on Easter eggs. You know, so we're gonna start Black Ops 2, BO2 baby, yeah. So the first map we got on there is gonna be Transit. Woo! But also, coinciding with Transit, technically before Transit is Nuketown. That's not a K. Nuketown Zombies. But, you know, I don't need to write that. So, we got Transit and Nuketown. Nuketown technically takes place before Transit, but if you didn't have the fucking special edition, you goddamn poor fuck, you know, you only got Transit. Sucks for you. So John just flipped me off. So, Nuketown basically takes place right after the fucking missiles from the moon. Remember that? Remember that in the last episode? I do. So, the missiles hit this, you know, little experimental Nuketown facility, in which the CDC and the FBI go to clean up this fucking mess. And in the process, they end up dying. But before they die, they end up freeing someone from this bunker. That's, what the fuck? They end up freeing someone from this bunker named Marlton. Goddamn nerd. And he's in a bunker, and he's happened to be the only one out of all these people that populated this test facility. He escaped in a bunker. Lucky him. And they free him. And he fucking dips, you know, because he ain't gonna die like the goddamn CDC and the FBI. And so that's when he meets up with a ragtag group of you know, brawlers, of some badass zombie killers. And you got Misty, you got Stuhlinger, and you got Rustman and Marlton, of course. And this is called the Victus Crew. Yeah, the Victus Crew. So we got the Victus Crew, and they're in transit, and you know, they're just surviving. And Stuhlinger, you know, the old man, he was a part of this group, and what they did was they consumed the flesh. And you know, basically the whole world is in ruins now after the nukes being launched from the moon. And it's 2000 like 14, and you know, they've been living in this world for a while, and he joined this cult basically where they consumed the flesh, which was the flesh of zombies, to survive, and they ate the flesh of zombies. And because of this, he's able to hear Richtofen in his head. Richtofen's able to communicate with him. And at this point, Richtofen is still controlling the zombies in a way, but he's like, basically he knows he's fucked. And so he needs someone to do his bidding. And so he selects the Transit Crew, which is the Victus Crew. And so he sends them kind of on these like little mini quests to do for him. But also at the same time, Maxis is communicating them through technology, because for some reason fucking Maxis can do this. And the Transit Crew, you can either A, go with Richtofen, or B, go with Maxis. But we're just going to talk about what's canon. And in canon, they just side with Maxis. They do everything Maxis said, even though Stuhlinger really wants to do everything that Richtofen says. But they can't hear Richtofen, so they say, fuck that. So, basically in Transit, they retrieve this piece, which they take with them to the next map, which is Die Rise. A lot of nostalgia on this map here. And once again, so you kind of might be wondering, if Richtofen, you know, is in control of the zombies, Why wouldn't he just like take the zombies off of them? I feel like it's kind of more of a method of, if they have nothing to motivate them to stop the zombies, then what's stop like getting them to do these things that they want them to do, you know? So Richtofen continuously sends these zombies after them as like that push, you know? Like, oh fuck, well this guy's gonna promise us safety once we're done with all this, you know, and these zombies are kind of fucking annoying. So they go to Die Rise, and in canon, they once again do what Maxis wants, and they succeed, and that takes them, you know, Die Rise doesn't have a lot to it. It's not very important. You know, there's not a lot of audio tapes there that are anything but like audio tapes from survivors after the nukes. There's a couple of things of like the Cult of the Flesh. And so then that takes us to Mob of the Dead. Which is correlated with the main storyline. So, in Mob of the Dead, you have Sal, Billy, Al, and the other guy, Chaz Palminteri. So they're all there, and they're prisoners basically, and they're on Alcatraz Island. Oh, that's Al. And so they're on the Mob of the Dead Island, and which is Alcatraz, and they're prisoners there. And one night they plan this escape, and they basically fail the escape mission. They plan to build this airplane and escape Alcatraz Island, and they fail the airplane. It crashes, and they die, and then their souls are immortalized in a endless loop of dying and trying to escape, and living and dying and trying to escape. And the reason that there's zombies there is because the warden makes a deal, which we'll explain later, which basically brings the zombies to them. So the zombies in this are controlled by the Agarthans. And so that map, we'll come back to that later because it's revisited in Black Ops 4. So Mob of the Dead, and then we got Buried. And then now we got Buried. Boom! The Revolution 1886 or whatever it was called. I don't remember yeah. So anyways, we got Buried. And the crew, the Victus crew, they travel from Die Rise to Buried, which I don't remember the location honestly, which is this old abandoned western town, which it's not really explained much, but this is like the thing. Apparently, like the town in the 1800s, there was a guy there, and he was an inventor, and he came upon element 115, and he figured that brought these miraculous powers to things. So this guy builds the Pack-a-Punch. He builds the sodas that we know, like Juggernog, all those, and he builds a bunch of other things, and basically they end up in like a time-space vacuum, which teleports them all to the future in the current place. Like, that's how the town got underground. It wasn't a town that was there and then it eventually grew into that. It was almost like the town got teleported there, but in the process everyone became zombified through element 115 except for Leroy, which is, you know, the big guy in the map that can help you do shit. So they go to Buried. It's the last step of this feud between Richtofen or Maxis. Who do we listen to? What do we do? And they eventually decide to side with Maxis in the legit ending. And Richtofen loses his control of the zombies, but Maxis also lies. And you figure out Maxis is low-key kind of a fucking dick, too. You gotta remember, these dudes were both Nazis to begin with. You know, this guy ain't good. It's the lesser of two evils, but he's still evil. And so he's a dick, and he still decides to have these zombies wipe out everyone. And then he basically banishes Richtofen to be a brainless zombie in his own the rest of his life. You know, Richtofen no longer has control of the zombies. So boom, we're done with Black Ops. Oh fuck, no we're not. So then, that's the end of that for now. And so then you get Origins. And you're like, okay, well, how does this tie in? The characters are different. So this is Origins. And this is when the whole timeline, it makes sense, but at the same time, it kind of seems like an afterthought, you know, like a retcon. So they retcon the story, kind of, but also they did it in a good way. And this introduces the Premise crew, which is young Richtofen, young Takeo, young Nikolai, and young Take Dipsy, and they're all in their prime during the Great War. And apparently, this event that happens in Origins happened throughout every timeline, even the ones from Black Ops World at War, but they were undocumented because there was no one there to document it. And these characters, you know, they weren't there to document it because of what I'm about to explain. So they're here during World War I, and what happens is Samantha, from an alternate timeline, reaches out to a younger Maxis during the Origins period, and she basically warns him of what's about to come. Samantha's not alive at this point in time, and Maxis starts discovering 115 throughout the planet before it even happens during World at War. And so basically, Samantha from a different timeline is rewriting all the events that have happened in Call of Duty. Zombies, not Call of Duty in general. So, Maxis discovers 115, and in the process during the Great War, they awaken a bunch of Templar zombies, bunch of fucking, they awaken a bunch of Templar zombies, they awaken a bunch of, you know, German zombies, and Nikolai, Tank, and Takeo actually do retain their personalities, and they're sent here to investigate Dr. Maxis and Dr. Richtofen. So basically, Dr. Maxis, through his experiments with 115, starts becoming zombified. And so Richtofen cuts his brain out of his body to preserve it, you know, so he can stay Maxis. And then they discover this, when they discover Richtofen as he's performing this operation at the end of it. And Richtofen decides to join the Ultimus crew. This is like the dopest crew. And so through this, they decide to free Samantha from her bounds at the end of Origins through the Easter egg, and they send her to Agartha, which is the heaven. And Agartha is like this perfect place. So she ends up in Agartha, right? With a child version of Edward Richtofen. You're like, how the fuck did he get there? We'll get there. So, they're there. Black Ops 2 ends. That's it for Black Ops 2. And then starts Infinite Warfare. No, I'm kidding. Black Ops 3. You had to add those accents, you know, or you won't know the Roman numerals. So, we need a Siggy for Black Ops 3 because this one shit gets deep. So Black Ops 3 starts out with fucking Shadows of Evil. And you're like, what the fuck is Shadows of Evil have to do with shit? Jeff Goldblum's in it, so you'll still play that shit. So then we got Shadows. Too much for... I can't reach that far. So we got Shadows of Evil. And it's basically the story of these 4 people in Morgue City. And, it's a purgatory, basically. And they all committed sins in their life, and then when they died, they were sent to this purgatory, and there's a voice speaking to them throughout the mission or level, and they're listening to this voice, and you figure out that guy is the fucking Shadow Man. And you don't fucking listen to the Shadow Man, because this dude is basically fucking Satan of goddamn zombies, okay? He's a bad guy. And you figure out that they're in the dark ether, the people in Shadows of Evil. And they're in this dark version of Morgue City for their sins. They're paying for their sins endlessly in a loop, kind of like Mob of the Dead. You see what I'm getting at here? And so these people basically listen to the Shadow Man, and they get this thing called the Summoning Key to release the Shadow Man. And in the process, they're like, this dude's fucking evil. So they use the Summoning Key against him, and they defeat the Shadow Man. And so once they defeat the Shadow Man, Richtofen from fucking Origins, the Premise Richtofen, comes through a portal, and he fucking steals the key from the goddamn, the Dark Ether Keeper, and he's like, this is mine now, I'm out. And you're like, okay, cool. So we kind of helped Richtofen, that Richtofen get the key, and then that's really all that is. And so then that's over. That shadows ain't too important, but it's cool. It's interesting. And so then after that, you get the giant. Oh, you got the giant, and the giant. All that is Richtofen returns with the summoning key to kill the Victus, no, the Ultimus version of himself, to retrieve his soul and absorb it in the summoning key. That's all that map, that's all it is. It's in the cutscene. The map's really just a remaster, and it's shit. So, okay, now we move on to the Reisendrock. I'm just gonna say their castle because I can't spell Eisendrock. Alright, so then the Reisendrock, it's the crew, the Ultimus crew from Origins, and you're like, alright, what's this got to do with shit? And you figure out that this is a facility that Richtofen, young Richtofen, operated at, and he knows that at this point in time, there's gonna be the young version of Tank Dempsey here at this castle, you know, being kidnapped. And so they travel there through time, and they basically kill the young Tank Dempsey and absorb his soul. And you're like, why the fuck's this dude absorbing souls? That's kind of sketchy. And you'll know in a second. But he's also collecting blood vials, okay? And you're like, why is he taking their blood too and absorbing their souls in the summoning key? What is the summoning key? So the summoning key is like it's a device that can just, it can do anything basically. It's dumb. My hair. And so they got the summoning key and they absorbed Dempsey's soul. That's that. There's not much to the map. And then we got Zetsubou. Right? Yeah. So now it's Zetsubou, which takes place in Japan. And Zetsubou no Shima, you figure out it's a Division 9 facility, just like Shinonuma and World at War. Division 9, in case you guys don't remember from the last episode, they're a wing of 935. They're part of the Axis powers. They were also experimenting with Element 115. So they go to Zetsubou no Shima, where they find a older Takeo that was never abducted, and you know he lives in the aftermath of World War II, and he's kind of like dishonored to himself because he wasn't able to serve his emperor. You know, they lost the war, and so he's like very disgruntled, and they end up collecting his soul from Zetsubou no Shima. And yeah, that's that. You know, they just kill him. That's all these maps are. You're just hunting down the original versions of yourselves. And so then after Zetsubou, you get Kroby. So then the crew decides to travel to... At this point, though, the universe is completely collapsing on itself because of the Shadow Man. He was released, but also they thought that in Shadows he was, you know, completely like captured again, but he's not. He's out and about, and the Dark Aether Keepers are pretty much preparing for this war, and so reality's like splitting apart. So they go to Kroby, and it's like a war-torn, what's the fucking motherland of Russia? Stalingrad. It's a war-torn Stalingrad, and there's like fucking, there's dragons, and just like crazy shit that aren't real, you know, because dragons is a king's food, not a poor man's food. And so, they go to Kroby, where they find Nikolai, and then they, you know, find an old 935 base there, which was being ran by that dimension's Dr. Maxis before he died back in Origins, obviously. Where you you learn that Sophia. I never explained Sophia, so fuck that. It doesn't matter. So, Rod Kroby, they eventually kill that Nikolai, and you're like, cool, we killed Nikolai. Yeah, we got him. We got his blood vial. We got his soul in the Summoning King. Boom. Or the Summoning Key. And so then you got, actually, probably the most important map of Black Ops 3, story-wise. The other ones are steps, but this one's entering the house, okay? So then you got Revelations. Revelations, yeah. So then we got Revelations, which basically they get all the souls, they get these blood vials, and Rick Toffin goes, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to team up with this guy named Dr. Monty, who throughout all the levels has been helping you. And Dr. Monty explains to you, hey, I'm Dr. Monty. I am from this thing called the Ether. There's the Ether and a Dark Ether. Hey, guys. Alright, so that's... God damn, bro. Alright, so that's the end of that's part 2. Did you learn anything new? God damn. Go up like you were earlier. So that was part 2. Thanks for watching part 2 of the zombie storyline explained by me, Tony. I already erased the board, sorry, you know. Make sure, leave a comment down below if you learned anything new. If you have any questions for us, the boys at the Foundry. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you for part 3 where we'll explain Revelations and the rest of Black Ops 4.